In today's episode of HR Visionaries, we talk to Maya. We talk about her experience in organizations that are changing rapidly due to M&A, for example. Stay tuned. Welcome to HR Visionaries, where we unlock the secrets of modern HR. I'm Benjamin, your host. Join us as we shed light on today's HR universe with HR leaders and innovators from across the globe. Whether you're an HR pro, a business leader, or just curious about the future of work, this is your shortcut to the forefront of HR innovation. Brought to you by Hire, the AI talent attraction platform. Welcome to the latest episode of HR Visionaries. I'm very much looking forward to my guest today. Maya, it's great to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Maya, can you tell us a bit about yourself? Who are you?
I'm an HR leader living in Israel, working mostly in the tech industry throughout the years, at the startup environment, a lot of experience in mergers and acquisitions and hyper growth companies. In the last years, I'm focusing on employee engagement, diversity, and the things that make people tick and be better at their job, company, and day-to-day life.
Was HR always an area you wanted to be in?
Oh, funny thing, because I came to HR not intentionally. When I was a teenager, I always thought to be in the biotech industry. I had my vision of learning and doing my first degree at biotechnology or biology. And then I went into the IDF and was chosen to be an HR and in fast track to HR officer. And I said to myself, okay, that was not my plan, but let's work it out. Let's see. And when time passes, and it was 5 years into different roles in that very upsy-turvy organization, I found out that people interest me, and I found out that being with people and guiding them through processes and stages and helping leaders in the reserve unit or in service takes the good parts out of me. And I saw that it was something that made me happy, and I was good at it. So it was not really a hard choice to choose to study my first degree at human resources and political science at the end.
Well, it's actually quite interesting that you went into the military. You were chosen for a particular role, and you liked it. Sometimes it needs it needs others to guide you and to see something in you that you perhaps don't see yourself.
Yes, I truly believe that sourcing methods are good to make people see where they belong, and it was a good experience. From my knowledge, not everyone goes in the path that the army chose them to be in. So if you have this possibility to try new things in new areas, you don't know where you can be surprised.
That's very exciting. And then, you first held an HR position in the military. Then you studied in HR, and then you also said you worked in the tech industry with scale ups and in a hyper growth mode. So how did your journey continue then?
When I left the military, it was obvious to me that I should continue this path. And I thought of where I should go because I had a share amount of experience, but not in the out of the military world, not in the general industry. So I found myself going into a startup of tech, a hardware company, and that was very fascinating. And I was very fortunate to be acquired with this startup 2 years later by Broadcom, a very multinational and very big company, which was really a school to learn how to grow on the big techs and how to work in very, very big industries and the global environment, to have a manager based in Israel, but their managers based in the UK or US, and work with purchasing in doubling and everything. I think that was a real good lesson to be taught.
I would love to go into a bit of detail here, given, M&A situations come with massive challenges. So, it changes the entire fabric of the company, right? So you, from being kind of independent to being part of a large organization, management style may change. Employees may be, some may be very happy, some may be frustrated. For some people, ESOP will be a big thing. For others may be really disappointed. Can you walk us a bit through that process? So how did you make sure that everyone was fully committed, fully on board, despite or because of the merger?
I can tell you from my shared experience, because this was the first time, and afterwards I was also worked in a company that were acquired. I think that this working in an organization that is about to change, everyone knows it's bound to happen, but no one knows when will be the next phase. And if they know when the next phase is, they are not sure how it will be and how it will turn out for them, specifically, each and every one of the employees, me included. I think that working on this M&A environment, which is so upsy-turvy, makes you find your inner self a very calm person, and see yourself as HR leader or HR person from the outside. Because every time on those times of change that you come into the office and you speak with employees, it's not what you say, most likely, it's how you say things and how you behave, even on your coffee morning. Which I give very high importance for. I have a lot of coffee stories that I always see how things are really open and authentic on coffee breaks. And I think that those things and those changes in working throughout the changes taught me a lot of how to set calm environment and how to set a positive environment, even though everything might change in a week's time, in a day, or even at the moment as we speak at some incidents. And it taught me a lot about the fact that employees at the end of the day, and everyone actually, not only in the job arena, they want to feel secured, and they want to feel seen, and they want to be measured equitably, and they want to feel that when they come to a place, wherever the place is, they feel belong. And I think that this is something that I didn't know how to call it and how to name it when early in my career. But when I'm developing and working on different environment and working out to leadership roles, I found out how to name it and how to find the ways to implement it more thoroughly. And I think that what brought me a lot to how I see HR and the HR arena today.
So, is it right to say that, there was a measure, this M&A situation kind of somewhere at the horizon, and you try to find out the mood of people very early, and then prepare people, so in coffee breaks, for example, gently for this change. Is that kind of how you approach this?
There are parts on M&A that I were aware from first stages. There are parts that I was only aware later on. But I think that one of the things that you learn that if you build up and develop a relationship with employees built on trust, afterwards, if something changes, your sincerity and your authenticity shows up, and it multiplies what you say. And I think that helped me in those changes of M&A, because when people saw that I'm open and authentic and with them and want their best interest, even though it's not always possible in the business environment, I thought they knew I meant well, even though sometimes I was not carrying the good news. Because sometimes in the HR, yes, you carry the not good news, the bad news sometimes. And I think that if you work your way in an open, authenticity, professional method, even the not good news are always accepted well.
Um, can you just mentioned, okay, you were aware of certain measures, you weren't aware of other things. How did you cooperate with the people or C-level people who knew more than you knew? I think sometimes it's also very difficult to communicate to employees, given, well, some things you absolutely must not communicate to anyone, despite you would love to, but you're just prohibited by law. So therefore, there are so many communication challenges in the M&A process. How did you deal with that?
You do your best. You keep things very tight. You think and rethink what you can say and how you can say things to be aligned with what needed to be said, because yes, prohibited by law sometimes. But I think that it's not only limited to M&As. I think that from on the day-to-day basis, strong HR leaders are always open and see and have a clear vision to the company that other organizations does not have, and they need to have the common sense or wisdom sometimes to know how to communicate things and how to channel things to the best of the employee and organization. It's a very tight line to not cross, and sometimes you're tiptoeing. But I think that as you experience things along the way, you know how to behave better on those circumstances.
What did you communicate? In an M&A situation, one might expect, okay, well, when the merger is through, so many things will change. Will I stay my job? Will there be less or more resources available for what I'm doing? Will the area I'm working in be more or less important? There are so many question marks, and therefore I'm wondering. So how did you make sure that, in particular in those times of change, everyone was engaged, everyone was well motivated, and people were positive about their future?
You don't start at the day of the M&A. You start at the day you start at the company, and when people come to the company and build those relationships that you can lean on. B, you try to see what of the tiny things, yes, the tiny things, even the beverages in the cafeteria can stay the longest time the same and not have a very vast changes to them. It's amazing how small things like beverages in the cafeteria matter to people. And you try to take, for example, HR practices or benefits and make evaluation between what was before and what is now, and show the upsides, and even if there are downsides, to show where this is a necessary measure. Because if it's necessary to align, for example, to the other of the global offices now when you join the company, so that's something that you can't really change and you can't really overlook. For example, if there is an unlimited PTO throughout the company and you're joining in as another site, you can't stay with your accumulated vacation days. You must align. But there are things that you can do in the variations. You can either pay those the vacation days off and try to do it tax-wise easier, for example. On the other side, you can have them as a bank or vacation days for them. For example, two decisions that you can decide between, and management and the executives should decide what to do next, and you can communicate to the employees to the best of your ability, and to help them to manage this change, which for some employees are very crucial change, to move from accumulated vacation days to unlimited PTO. Sometimes it rocks their world. I know it sounds small, but no, it's a perception of vacation days and PTO. And to know how to communicate it well, and to see the silver lining in everything while you communicate. I think that we've managed to have a silver lining when communicated under COVID. I think we can communicate many things with silver lining.
How do you balance two perspectives? So there may be those who once the merger is announced will be like, oh wow, this acquirer on the projects I'm working on, they are super positive. I read so much positive stuff about this, and people will do the research probably quite quickly, and other people will be like, okay, well, the team I'm working on, they only last year shut down a similar project. So there may be those who feel like, okay, well, this is just amazing and couldn't be any better, and those who might be super negative and be frightened. It's a made up scenario, obviously, but I'm wondering how you prepare for those situations, even if it's not true. People might think this.
It's not a far-fetched scenario, and it's influenced not only by the engagement at work and their work and their career experience, but also sometimes from how their personality was developed and how they think as a day-to-day person, and not only in the work environment. But you need to make sure that those employees feel evaluated and feel seen, and sometimes even spot out and take to personal calls and personal talks one-on-one with HR or with a direct manager, sometimes with HR guidance. HR doesn't have to be in the room to have HR processes, in my opinion. If their managers are more equipped, or and they can be taught, if the manager can be trained and taught to have a significant personal conversation, I think that HR not being in the room actually is a big plus for HR, because it can multiply HR. And I think that it's very important to see how we can do it. And yes, take those employees to conversation, whether it's with HR or the direct manager. And we know the influence. We know that, for example, the last Gallup survey reminded us that 70% of the employees' feeling about his job is related to their direct manager. And I think that's something that if you enhance that and empower those managers to have those calls and identify if there is an employee that needs to hear from his manager, or sometimes HR as not a manager, because that's another type of conversation always. It's another type, it's another flavor of a professional conversation at work with HR or with a direct manager, for example. I think that we should work on that and gather them. And if we take those employees that have bad experiences or just heard of bad experience, not felt them in first hand, but heard, and sometimes I'll say that that's even worse, because they can only imagine. They didn't experience it, and they didn't got out of it. They only heard the bad, and they didn't experience the good things in it. So I think that if we take them and make them see how much they are important to the company and the processes, and how they can benefit, we can get them even very engaged in times of change.
How do you coach managers to be effective at exactly this task, given well, in many companies, it's still the case that people who are very good subject matter experts, who are very successful salespeople, they then become managers after some time, which may for some work very well, for others it won't. But in particular in those situations when every word counts and every tone of voice counts all the time, how do you coach people to be effective?
I don't think it's $1 million question. It's $1 trillion question, actually. Because I
Lovely.
think, yes, because I really think, and I think that the day-to-day experiencing it and facing it, that we work in a very fast companies, and business is the number one priority, and we sometimes rush into the business, and tech leaders especially rush into the tech things and the bugs and everything that went with the customer technically, that they sometimes, even if they don't want, neglect to see how people are. So I think that HR, as much as they can, should be the little fly on the wall that see things. I think that in addition, when they see or when they hear things from managers or other people on the staff, they should hear it out and be very delicate ear about it, very, very sensitive to what is said, and raise questions. And when finding out that there's a specific thing, to think how to take this manager to make him see what's in it for him, if he'll have a very strong and very engaged team. And it's not only holistic point of view. I can give you the matrix. For example, if we return to Gallup, because I was very impressed from that last issue. I know.
Yeah, also found it quite shocking, to be honest.
Yeah. Why?
Well, I must say I found the survey pretty shocking, given the level of non-engaged people. It's frustrating. So therefore, I really like that we talk about it.
I always say that it's the second year that the numbers are about 23% engaged in companies, and HR is always working to move the needle. But by the way, researches, I think one research was made in Oxford, was shown that organizations spend a lot of money and a lot of dollar value on mental health and welfare events, and they can't really move the needle. I have a lot to say about that, and I think that one of the reasons for not moving the needle, if I need to have, one, is that welfare and mental health are dealt tactically and less strategically. They always about what to do at this day and why to do it on that calendar day of the year, and less about what is my long-term outcomes and what I want to do with this and how I personalize this to my audience and my employees. And I think that's one of the minuses in HR, because we mostly come from holistic, more human-based studies, and less from the quantitative parts of studies. So we always speak about emotions and how can people feel, but we less go to the numbers. And yes, it was numbers that I found them frustrating myself, because it's 23, around 23-ish% around the world globally. And it's on the other side, if you look at the metrics why to invest in engagement, you can see that it's 78% in less in absenteeism, which is a very hard disease of companies throughout the years. I can also say that one of the things that made me smile is it's the rising 10% in customers' loyalty, not even the employees. So it's a ripple effect. It's not something that ends with employees that work more or have less absentees or less sick or more strong in mental health issues. It's actually affects the business on a day-to-day, not only on turnover that we already know, and we can all rhyme and think how costly it is to replace an employee, but also in things that really generate the first-hand revenue and not a second or third-hand revenue, which is amazing to me. And I think this is something that HR should really learn and memorize and speak about it. And I think that it goes along with not only the numbers, but also that engaged processes also affect on every people biologically, because we have hormonal cycles in the body, which is affected by engaged processes and engaged matters. If you see an employee that comes out from a good conversation with his leader, his manager, second level manager, or any leader in the company, even not a direct one, you can see small things like pupils dilated. And this is something that really physical. It's in, our brain's neurons. You can say dopamine, and you can say everything. And it's not like when HR sits in front of a CEO and tells him, oh, I want to do a summer picnic. Why you want to do a summer picnic? Oh, because it's fun and everyone, it's in the cycle. I think that's a bad answer. I think
Yeah.
we need to see why and where. And sometimes if we want to stick them in a specific way, and not just like that, and make things more strategically organized to spend our dollar value not twice as much, not tens as much, even more, and multiplied by, I don't want to commit to a number, but
Yeah.
you can multiply it exponentially.
What I find so interesting is that, well, for some managers, the idea of employee engagement is like, okay, the traditional pizza that is brought to the office, or the fruit basket. However, when you look deeper, well, in particular, in times when people are more and more specialized, the individual contribution of every employee increases tremendously, and therefore, well, engaged employees will go the extra mile, while those who are not engaged will stick to the day-to-day business, which is okay. However, it is a great competitive advantage in my view if you have very engaged employees who come up with amazing ideas. And when you look at corporate history, it's always those companies that had amazing people in their amazing employees, amazing managers who came up with great ideas, and that changed the world, right?
Yes, and that's why I think that as HR leaders, we should not make our 100% or 90% focus on the service and moving this box to another and check box this, but to think and to orchestrate and to strategize how we do the processes and how we do it well, and how we take things and combine them together. Because in everything, it's not only in HR, things are not one point data. It always has this effect on others. I can see a strong connection not only with engagement and business outcomes. I can also see with diversity and inclusion to engagement. And I think there's a very strong tie there, not only the business outcomes, but also, for example, if a recognition that you give to an employee is not equitable, and the employees think that it's not equal in a way, whether it's the amount or whether it's the person given to, it won't work. And I think that's one of the very strong similarities, but it also has to performance management, that most likely we do it same thing each year, and we are misusing tools like 9-box grid, for example. A 9-box grid is a tool which can be amazing, but most likely the Pareto part, the 80% part, is used only as a 1-2-3 specific one, but with a very, very shallow explanation. If you get the potential bar of the 9 grid, and you really see who is the rock star and who is the steady star, and give them the alignment of 2 or 3 as they should be, as a steady or a rock star with the future development, you can get people more engaged because they'll see who they are. They see that they are seen. For example, I'll give you a steady star, which is a solid star, but he's solid. He's not aiming, or at this point, maybe later on, but at the moment, he's not aiming to progress anywhere. He wants to be a steady star, a steady performance, but a high one. And he gets 3, for example, because he's a star. And then with 3, there's always, there's a development plan for you, and you can go there and you maybe move to the other department and be a manager and be a leader, a tech lead, every profession and on their scale. And then they smile because they were complimented, but they go outside, and when it gets a bit quiet and thoughts comes up in his head, comes out, or maybe comes home to his spouse or an important person and says to them, they didn't really understand me. I'm working hard to be good at where I am. I don't want anything else. If they see me, why did they offer me things that, of course, I won't be interested in at the moment? And then you can see how organization puts a lot of effort in performance management and do it correct, but miss most of the points.
And I think there we come to the essence, so that, well, a leader who engages his or her workforce, well, is probably very good at listening, right? And when you listen to people, you understand what they want and what they also don't want, and where they have to step out of their comfort zone to an acceptable degree, and, well, what might be a few steps too far.
Yes, and that's why it comes to listening, and it comes to listening and understanding, and sometimes challenging what you've heard, because as persons, you take out the manager, the leader, the employee. As people, we listen to things and we color it in a certain way, and we need to try and always reflect to ourselves that it's not always what we hear that is spoken. And that's a problem, because we all make this sin, I'll say it. We get enthusiastic and we go on, and we didn't understand and didn't catch this tiny thing in the sentence or the body language, or we assumed it was, he didn't sleep very well last night, he has a newborn at home, personal thing, and we don't always see it through. And that's something that we all make mistake in.
And it kind of brings us back to the M&A situation again. So it's very cool that it's all very very connected what we talk about today. So how do you coach leaders to be good listeners? So allow me to go back to the M&A situation, where I think is so much tension and there is so much anxiety also involved, where just a small gesture or just some facial expression can make all the difference to people who worry about their job, or at the contrary, think about the biggest career opportunity given to them through the M&A situation. How do you do this?
I think that the managers, as everyone aboard, should have the time to offload their feelings, because when you offload your feelings, you're more open to listen to others. So I try to be this person for them, and if it's not personally me, it's either for my staff or other managers, their managers in the organization. And I really try to make them understand that they should offload and be open and have the room to accept those calls, even if they need to, embrace some rituals of a stroll around the building or something like that. Or sometimes there are people that listening to music get them unwind. And when they are unwind and are open and they have the emotional capability to listen, they will be better listeners. And I think that at the end, when they understand what's in it for them as leaders and managers, they will work and do those practices to be a more open and more good and a better listener.
Maya, thank you so much. It was super interesting listening to you indeed. And we're learning so much about how to manage those challenging situations, not better or better good, but just probably quite challenging, and how to keep people engaged and how to make sure that your employees go the extra mile. Thank you so much. It was super interesting.
Again, thank you for having me. I always enjoy talking about those subjects that are very dear to me, Benjamin.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for listening in, and hear you next time.